Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible.com. You can get a free audiobook download and 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/ConversationCast. There are over 150,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle or MP3 player. I've always enjoyed talking to Jilly Cooper. She's always jolly. She's never difficult. She smiles and she engages you in conversation. This conversation that I had with her, she'd written a murder mystery about music, and it was called Score. So for her, I said to her, well, it's maybe a bit of a departure.
Yes, it was. It was a bit brave, and because it was a murder, and there were too many subjects to research. But anyway, it's done.
And I find out that the roots of this are you chasing 4 naked women in the desert with Patrick Litchfield in the 80s. What was that about then? Well,
it was. I was asked by the Unipark Calendar to write the report. I mean, the book about the shoot, and Patrick was very lovely and funny, one of the funniest men I've ever met. And he photographed these 3 naked models, very, very beautiful, funny girls. There was a makeup artist, there was a video team photographing us,
yeah.
him making his calendar. And the fights were unbelievable. Everybody fought with everybody, because everybody had their own agenda. I mean, the makeup people they hated it, and all the models' tits dropped, so they had to have ice on their tits. And there wasn't any ice in the desert, and round. Anyway, I thought this was so funny. I wrote my book, and then about 15 years later, I wrote this.
But originally that experience was in the desert and it's 90 degrees. Your filming is in this country and the stressors are completely different. And you chose an opera. Why did you choose to make it around an opera?
Because when I was on tour for a book called Appassionata, which was about all the previous characters, I suddenly thought my conductor was so repulsive, I thought I'd kill him off. And so I thought I'd write a short little book called Who Killed Ronaldini, about killing him off. 700
odd pages, a short little book.
Anyway. But it was very interesting, because I had to research recording, filming, the opera and the police, and I went crackers, but it was all quite fun.
Now, Ronaldini, he's not very tall, is he?
No, little.
Little bloke?
Little, yep.
So what's the secret of his dynamism? How come he's been so procreatively active?
Well, he's got. There's an analogy to him. He says he's the level of a winter sun. You know, the winter sun blazes much more brightly into your eyes than the sun up there. And so he's just on the level with women, and he's got these amazing eyes. He's got a very deep voice, and he's a thug, and women quite like thugs. And he's a brilliant musician. He's a genius, you see. And the thing about conductors is they conduct the orchestra, and they're so powerful. They say to some poor little flautist, come to my room and let me tell you about, I don't know, A flat or something, and they're on their backs in 2 seconds flat.
And you know this? You've researched this?
Yeah, I have. I mean, I know about conductors. Conductors are terrible bonkers. I mean, serial bonkers. There's the power thing again.
Well,
and you see now, and orchestras hate singers, musicians hate singers, and so because they think singers are overpaid to have tantrums and up themselves, and so when you get the fights between the conductors and the singers and the orchestra, and then you have the film people, so of course the stress.
Yes, absolutely. And is it because everybody thinks they're wonderful? Is it because it's an ego thing?
I think it's an ego thing. I mean, you're an artist. I mean, I've known you for a long, long time, and you're a brilliant broadcaster, and you can't bear for your broadcasts to be less good than you want them to be, can you?
Oh, no.
And it's the same with singers, and poor singers. If you're a musician, we can just talk, but I mean, a singer, if they've got a cold, or if anything's wrong with their voice, or with air conditioning, or they've cried all night, or they've had a bad review, or they're upset, that affects their voice. And so they're very, very neurotic.
When you decided, okay, I'm going to do the murder mystery, did you then think, I'll read everything from Agatha Christie to the contemporary masters and mistresses, because usually it is women who are good at this. Yeah. Did you go with trepidation?
I went with huge trepidation, but I also thought it would be a dawdle. And I was wrong.
Did you?
I did.
Why did you think it'd be a dawdle?
Well, I just was feeling in a hubristic mood that day. And it was the most difficult thing I've ever done, and funnily enough, I've talked since to P.D. James and all sorts of people, Minette Walters, real geniuses at the thrillers, and they all say the same thing. They don't talk to the police at all, they just watch the bill. Everybody watches it. All the detective writers watch the bill. They don't bother to talk to the police.
But you talk to the police?
I talk to the police.
Now, what did you learn from that? Because most of us are in two minds, aren't we?
I love the police.
You do?
I love them. Any hour of night I rang them up, they were absolutely wonderful. And I mean, there is...
Well, that's because you're famous.
Well, I don't know. A lot of people don't like famous people.
Are they?
Anyway, they were sweet to me. And the point was, there was one wonderful story when I rang up and I said, because Randall Deany gets murdered, and I rang up Stroud Police and I said, look, I'm terribly embarrassing. This was quite late at night, and I said, I've got stuck on my book. Oh, not again, Jilly, ha, 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 ha. And I said, does the male member or the cock stay erect? If it stays erect, if it's up at the moment of death, does it stay up or go down? And Stroud Police said it stayed up. And so about a week later I had to talk to Gloucester Police, and so I said, oh, by the way, the CID there, and I said, by the way, Stroud Police say, no, they said, no, it subsides at the moment of death, Jilly. So, I mean, it became a course celeb, everybody was talking about it.
And did you come to a definitive answer?
No, I mean, his stays up, but I think everybody else, I think it's just his character. But all sorts of interesting things. Did you know that when a body dies, what goes first?
No.
It's the eyes. And that's magpies. Magpies pick out the eyes. That's Shakespeare's and it's true too. And then foxes usually eat the bodies. So I learned all sorts of fascinating things like this.
Let's go back to the book. Hang on a minute. Let's just go at Randall Deany's body for a minute. What's his expression at the time of death?
His expression?
Yes.
Oh, he's terribly happy. He's terribly happy because he hears this singing of his favourite aria, and he's had a row with his mistress, and he thinks she's forgiving him. But you don't know whether it's a record or a tape or somebody impersonating the singer. Or it might be a very naughty boy, a treble, floating around. Randall Deany's son, he easily wanted to bump off his father.
Yes. Now, tell me about the relationship between father and older children in the Randall Deany household.
There's rather a lot of children. I mean, there's Wolfgang, who's a Nazi sort of little Gauleiter, but he's very glamorous and he's sweet by the end. But he's had about 16 wives, and he's got masses of children, so they all have rather a difficult time. And he plays past struggles like a lot of men with a lot of children do. He's nice to one day and then nice to another the other day.
Your books started...
Nice to see you.
It's nice to see you. I was actually very much struck coming back to this a year after the hardback at the exuberance of the text. You know,
it's jolly, isn't it?
It is jolly, Jilly. Yes. Now that was your trademark, really, wasn't it, when you started? That
was private eye. They call me Jolly Super, spelled with an S-O-O-P-E-R.
Yes.
And I suppose so. I mean, I think it's a sort of schoolgirl streaking one. But I mean, when you're writing, you have to cheer yourself up occasionally, don't you think?
But the plots were simpler, weren't they?
No, that's a mess. I mean,
I wasn't saying it was a mess. I was just saying it was more complex.
No, the point about that book was that it's the last in the Rutcher series of Rupert Campbell Black and all that lot. I mean, he comes a bit in the next book I'm writing at the moment. But basically, it was like a snowball and more characters, and this was crazy. So I think there's a jolly good... and also there was the opera, you see, so you suddenly get Don Carlos coming in and you think that might be a waiter. And he's a hero in the opera, hero of the opera.
I read at the back that you went to see, was it Lulu Begg's Lulu as part of your researches. Now...
Did you see that?
No, I didn't, but
wonderful.
I mean...
wonderful.
But it's a bit hard on, there aren't a lot of good tunes,
are
there?
It's wonderful. It's so exciting. It's such a good story, you don't mind about the music. It's a terrific story.
But I sense...
But that was a very interesting story about that girl playing Lulu, because she was absolutely brilliant. And the day I was going to see it, she said she got a bad shoulder and was grumbling and making an awful fuss about too much rehearsal. And they immediately said to her they put in an understudy. God, she recovered quickly.
You see, I love the conspiracy between music and sensuality, which is really the core of this, isn't it?
Absolutely.
And I just wonder whether, when you get to Berg, if the sensuality is gone. I mean, did anyone ever feel randy after listening to a Berg piece?
They would certainly feel randy after watching a Berg piece, because that's all about Lulu's a prostitute, and it's very sexy, and the plays. I mean, I went to Covent Garden, I went with a friend of mine, and we were absolutely wrung out by the end. I remember going to Salome at Covent Garden and seeing two businessmen coming after us, and one said to the other, "Oh, that Salome's made me feel right randy, let's go to a strip club."
Where do women go when they feel like that? Who knows? I mean, because your women are sensuous beasts, aren't they?
I suppose. I think they're getting a bit less sensuous as I get older.
Well, do you know, that's what I was wondering. I was wondering how to ask you that tactfully.
No, it's actually right. Because I am old now, and it's quite difficult.
Is it?
Well, it's difficult because I mean, not that I ever did all those things, because I couldn't if I'd been dead.
But you imagine?
I imagine them. But I mean, the thing is that also I've just read a book called Boogie Woogie. Have you read it?
No.
By Danny Moynihan. It's absolutely brilliant. But it's about the art world. And I mean, the young are light years ahead of me, and probably light years ahead of a young thing like you. I mean, they are extraordinary.
Are they?
Things they're getting up to now.
Oh.
I was amazed.
Are you sad to have missed it?
No, I think it's been rather uncomfortable, some of the things they get up to, but it's still very different.
Now, this great title. I mean, it starts with a great title. It got to #1 in hardback, didn't it?
It done very well in hardback. It was 20 weeks, and I have to say this because the critics were horrid, but it's 20 weeks on the bestseller list and 6 at #1, you see, and so it didn't do badly.
Did
and
it?
I'm only saying this because I was cross. I was sad about the critics, and then the public were nice.
Yes, they were slightly acidic. Not all of them.
No. I mean, why shouldn't they be? Anyway, I don't mind about that, but it was nice that the public disagreed with them.
Yeah, so now what? After doing this, proving you can move to a different genre, what do you do now?
I'm doing the art world, and I've got a completely new lot of characters. I've invented a new lot, and there are only about 20 characters in the next book.
Because this one, you have a cast of characters.
220, longer than the book, yes.
Yes, there's loads of them. And is the art world, well, I suppose it's as sexy. I mean, Picasso was pretty sexy, wasn't he?
And John Richardson, I'm just reading his book about Picasso, which is so good. You know, the art world's wonderful. They're quite sort of nasty. I mean, they smile a lot, but I think they're quite sort of bitchy. I think the dealers are very iffy. I don't think they're very honourable. I don't think anybody's very honourable. I don't think anybody's very honourable in the art world.
I know you've got to go, but can I recommend to you, instead of reading the new...
I don't want to go at all.
Pardon?
I don't want to go at all, but
no, it's
only because I've got to go, that's all.
I know you've got to go. Yeah. Don't read the new Jilly Cooper. Although...
I want to read. I want them to read it.
What?
That one.
I know. I was saying, don't read the new Jilly Coopers. Read the real thing. No, I want them to read it as well. Do it. If you haven't got the hardback, buy this one. It is called Score, and it's the latest out from Jilly Cooper, but I'm sure there'll be a hardback soon, won't there?
202, I think. I'm very pleased with your programme. I'm very proud of you. We go back a long way now, and we were all right.
Thank you very much indeed.
Thanks for listening to this episode of ConversationCast. If you're an author, artist, musician, or someone else who'd like to talk to us, or if you're a listener and you'd like to suggest someone you'd like to hear a conversation with, or you'd like to give us some feedback, or even just say hi, feel free to email us at theconversationcast@gmail.com. theconversationcast@gmail.com. We look forward to hearing from you.